Or
Oh, we're gonna be live very soon. Hold on. Not
Yeah.
yet.
tell us when.
We're live.
Hello, and welcome to our Facebook Live series, Ask the Vision Loss Experts, Coping with COVID-19. My name is Dr. Tricia Grant, and I'm the Senior Director of Low Vision Research at the Chicago Lighthouse.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Dr. Brian Walensky. I'm a low vision optometrist in New York City, and I work with OrCam Technologies. So our intent for this series is to discuss topics and engage everyone and share information as pertains to vision loss during this time of social isolation and the COVID-19 pandemic. And in these episodes, we want to bring you guests and topics that concern the community during this time.
And we welcome everyone to join, whether you or a loved one are visually impaired or blind, or you just want to learn more about the experiences of people who have vision loss during this time of social distancing.
And we wanted to thank everyone who's been joining us each week. This is our fourth time on here, I believe, right, Dr. Grant?
That's correct. Fourth.
If you guys out there know someone who might benefit from this discussion or wants to join in or wants to listen, and take a moment, hit that share button on this post so other people can join.
So we have a very special guest planned to join us today, and right now he's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but hopefully he'll join us a little bit later in the show. But before we get started talking about some of the things that we want to go over today, we have a question that we want to pose for the audience. And we want you to type these responses right now in the comment section below, and we're going to go over them after the show or towards the end of the show. So the question is, what is one new hobby or activity that you've taken up since quarantine? So again, go ahead, type your answers in the comment section below, and we'll go over them a little bit later.
So Dr. Grant, what is something that you've been doing during quarantine?
So I really had to think about what new thing I've been doing. And the thing that I came up with, it's not that original, but it is cooking. And the reason I've been doing this so much is I have 3 sisters and they're phenomenal cooks. And everyone knows, everyone's always requesting their food and they're really great. And I kind of have a couple dishes, but I don't have the same reputation as they do as far as cooking. So, every couple of weeks I've been asking, oh, can you share this recipe with me? Can you share that recipe with me? But I've really been practicing. So hoping our next get together, I can really show them up a little bit. So that's what I've been doing.
No, that's great. And when you've been going to the market, to get groceries and food, someone mentioned about people, I guess now having to wear masks and be careful when you're out, of course, and have that distancing. I know some groceries, when you go out now, stores have one-way aisles that people are adhering
right
to.
I've seen that.
And we brought up the issue of going to the store and going out, but you've seen everyone pretty much wearing their masks, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I'm in Chicago, and we just started basically an ordinance that you have to wear your mask when you're going into public places. And I've actually even seen people get turned away at the door. I went to a Home Depot and they couldn't go in without a mask. So stores are taking this pretty seriously. So it is important that you do wear a mask, just again, for your safety, other safety, but also because those are the rules now. So I think you were leading to the question that we had about masks, and someone asked the question, we are required to wear masks now. So, and I only have a couple of them. Can I reuse them? And if I do, how should I store them? And I thought this was a really good question because information is everywhere. I was even looking for the answers to this, and I had to really do some searching, but CDC does put out some good guidelines about reusing masks. And the information that we share today is not for healthcare workers. Healthcare facilities have their own set of guidelines. So this is for anyone who's wearing a mask to go to the store or just running errands. So first of all, it's not recommended that you reuse a mask, but the good thing now is a lot of people are making masks, and there are cloth masks that are reusable and washable becoming more and more available. So that's a really good option. But if you don't have that option and you just have a paper mask and you just have one of them, the best thing to do is when you come in with the mask, you want to just treat it like it's a biohazard, even if it's not, because you want to be really careful with it. So that means don't go toss it on the counter, the table, or a place where you're often going. You want to put that in a place that you're not visiting often in your house. And you want that to be a warm and a dry place. And you want to leave it there for 72 hours at least. And that's kind of going to kill some things off. And then the important thing also is when you're taking your mask off, that you are never grabbing the front of it. You want to take it from the elastic and behind your head. And another really great tip that I found was to tip your head forward, because that when you pull it from the back and you tip your head forward, it kind of just falls off. So you don't have to grab it again from the front. And then you just want to go ahead and store it for as long as you possibly can until you need to use it again. But that's what you do. If you have one mask, again, try to find some reusable masks, because they're out there now. And on kind of along the same line, we had another question for you, Dr. Walensky, and this comes from Jay Mitchell in Los Angeles. And he says, should I also wear gloves to the grocery store and other public places? So we're hearing a lot about the masks. What about the gloves?
So yeah, a lot of people have been talking about the gloves. There was actually a nurse who put out this viral video about people going out to the market or just anywhere and everywhere with their gloves on. And they get this false sense of like security of wearing them. And actually the CDC says it's really only to wear gloves for people who are caring for somebody who's COVID positive. And also if you're a healthcare worker. Otherwise, really wearing gloves sort of gives us this false sense of security. Now they're saying, you know, if it makes you feel better, wear gloves, but you really need to treat your hands as if you weren't wearing the gloves when wearing them, because you have to use them properly. Because if you're wearing your gloves, you're still touching things. So your gloves are still getting contaminated. And the whole thing is about don't touch your face. Don't start touching other things. Don't reach for your phone and then put your phone up to your ear, because everything you're touching is cross-contaminating everything else. So having the gloves on, it might make you feel like I'm invincible, but yet really you're touching everything and touching yourself, and it's all over your gloves. So really what you have to do is properly wear gloves if you're wearing them, meaning the biggest thing is don't touch your face, because really it's not coming through your skin of your hands, the virus, it's coming through mucous membranes, your nose, your mouth, your eyes. So really that's where to protect is your face. What's also recommended is if you're wearing gloves, really what you want to do is properly take them off. And the CDC does have a way of properly shows the proper way of taking off the gloves, which is basically grabbing the glove from the inside by your wrist and then turning it inside out as you take it off, and then using the inside part of that glove to take the other glove off, sort of like
interesting.
each other. And then it's about a 7-step process. We can put a link to the process on Facebook Live after we finish, so that way everyone can have it, or maybe we can put it as well on the website. It's really a better way to do it. And also, if you're taking off your gloves, toss them in the trash afterwards. Don't clean them, don't reuse them. They're not meant to be reused. And also throw them in the trash. Don't leave them, throw them on the ground or anything like that. People have been doing that. And I'd like to put up that link of this nurse who really discussed this issue, because it is an issue. Just people are not using their gloves properly. And after you wear your gloves, always wash your hands. So you wash your hands before you put the gloves on, and then after. It reminds me when I was a student in chemistry, I minored in chemistry, when I was a chemistry student, to wash your hands before and after chemistry. So be careful of what you're touching out there.
Yeah, that's really, really great advice. I was guilty initially of trying to disinfect my gloves, because I did only have one pair and I wanted to reuse them. And then the next time I went to use them, they had holes in them. So it's true. You have to unfortunately toss them out. So I think that's really great advice about the gloves. And along with the mask, same thing. Before you take your mask off, wash your hands. After you take your mask off, wash your hands. Just, go back to we've been washing our hands for 2020. It's true. That's all we've been doing. So again, I want to remind the audience, we're asking everyone to answer our question of the day, which is, what new activity have you been doing since you've been in quarantine? And Dr. Walensky, what have you been doing?
So I last week, actually, something new. I tried yoga with
Oh, with Lena, nice.
Lena Lee at OrCam. So that was fun. Some of it was more difficult than I thought it would be, but it felt good. So I intend on keeping that going, as well as I've been trying to teach myself piano. I have a keyboard, so I put on my headphones so that way my neighbors don't have to hear. I used to play in high school and college the trumpet. I really wanted to try that, but I didn't want to annoy my neighbors. So keyboard is better, and I've been trying. I'm not great, but I can use my right hand. I have a hard time with the left hand. I have trouble coordinating that way, but that's fine. What I also want to bring up is just, this is Dr. Grant, I'm Dr. Walensky, and just thank you for joining us. If you just joined us, and we're discussing COVID-19 and social isolation as pertains to vision loss. And we were going to have a guest today. So that's what we get for going live, is that, complications, some technical difficulties, but I do want to discuss Fitz. So yeah. I want to bring him up because he's a really great guy, and there's a lot we can learn from even the discussions that we had with him. So I've known Fitz now about 2 years. Fitz is a well-known and respected recording engineer, producer, and recording artist in Brooklyn, New York. An amazing guy. He's the founder of Willpower Entertainment, and he's really a driving force here in New York. But what also is not only that, is running his own business. He's pursuing a degree in music management with a minor in economics now at Baruch College here in New York City. So he's doing a lot of amazing things. And during this time, we discussed with him being in school and what changes. So Dr. Grant, I think you remember our conversation. What did he mention?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he was in the middle of his semester, and then quarantine happened and classes shut down, the school shut down. So he did say that he was taking public transportation an hour there and an hour back. So he was happy to get that time back. But he also said that it was kind of a discovery for him because he hadn't taken online classes before, and he started doing classes on Zoom, which he's doing right now. And he learned that Zoom is accessible, and it was fairly an easy way for him to get on with the rest of his class and learn. The other thing he mentioned was that he had textbooks. So he talked about issues with his textbooks, and that that was a big barrier for him in school, is needing to order those textbooks and have them come in, or sometimes they weren't coming in quickly. So he is an OrCam user, and that was one of the uses that he was finding a great value in, is reading his textbooks. So I think with OrCam and Zoom and cutting down his travel time, he seemed pretty happy about not having to commute to class every day. I mean, he did say he has his struggles, but he's getting through, and semester's almost over. It ends in 2 weeks, so I'm sure he's pretty happy about that as well. So yeah, those were some of the things he talked about. I haven't talked to a student, about how things are changing, and I think he said a positive that came out of that is now he sees that he can take online classes, and he'll be doing more of that in the future. So it was kind of an introduction to him of how things could be.
A couple of things that he mentioned also to me on another call I had with him was, one, that they're identifying the challenges that's happening with education, and hopefully those challenges will hopefully get worked on for next semester. One big challenge is that when he is on Zoom and they share the screen, or they share the PowerPoint that the professor is discussing is not accessible. Yeah. The professor needs to be aware of that and not say, look here, this or that, or show a picture of something. They need to describe it more for them, knowing that it's not accessible. Yes, those are some of the issues that he brought up himself.
That's right. And we also talked about his business because, as you mentioned, he has a company and he's a small business owner. He has a studio that he's been doing a lot of work in, but he also has people working for him. So we talked to him about whether he was applying for the PPP loan, which is a paycheck protection loan. And that's really something that was put in place, a program that was put in place for small businesses or just businesses in general that are really suffering from the pandemic. As everyone can imagine, a lot of people are losing business and suffering. So we talked to him about the application process for that. And he did say that he is going through it, but do you recall some of the things that he talked about as far as going through the application and what that was like for him?
Yeah, he just said it wasn't accessible. He had to get people to help him, and it was a struggle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this whole PPP program has been a struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This also myself a practice where we were struggling even getting the application in. So I could see not having it be accessible really knocks out a whole population set. So really this needs to be addressed and needs to be worked on. So there's a lot of things that are being recognized, sort of like the topics of transportation, other things that we talked about with Andy. And actually mentioning Andy, there's Andy Fabino says, right? That's Andy.
Hey, that's our Andy. Yeah.
He said what he's been doing since the quarantine is listening to some old music. Well,
yeah.
I don't know what you mean by old music. For me, old music's like the Beatles. So that's my thing.
No, him and I have talked a lot about old music and what he's been listening to. And, there are a lot of DJs that are giving live sets on Facebook Live and other platforms. And so we've been kind of texting each other back and forth. Oh, this DJ's playing and these songs are on, or, just back and forth. So I do think he's really talking about old music from decades ago. I mean, I talked to him about what that does for him. And he was actually telling me that he feels like when he's listening to old music and watching old TV shows, it puts him back into that place mentally and, a good time for him. So he says that's been a coping thing for him as well, that he's been listening to music and remembering good times and it just kind of getting him through the times today. And I think that's a really good strategy.
Yeah, I guess maybe the cooking too is reminding you of your sisters, and it's a good,
it is.
Mechanism. Also, I have Alicia Weber who says she's been cooking, organizing, and home improvement. Wow, what home improvement? If you could let us know.
I know. Let us know. And if you
I only changed a light bulb for home improvement.
And we have our friend Robin Whalen. She's also cooking and reading. So a lot of people are cooking, and I think that's kind of an important thing because you're at home now more often. You want to cook your meals. It also explains why a lot of ingredients have become hard to find in the grocery store because everyone is cooking. So again, everyone, please put in your answer for us because we really want to hear what you're doing and maybe we can adopt some of these ourselves.
Right. And one thing, we do pay attention to what everybody, is writing and saying. And someone last week brought up something that's very important, I guess, to bring up. And we just didn't want to ignore it. Again, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, so we really didn't know how to respond or how to say it. But maybe you want to tell Dr. Grant what the issue was that someone brought up?
So last week we did have a mother comment on our link, and she said that her son right now is actually really enjoying social isolation, but it's because of a reason that is disheartening. It's because he's bullied in school because of his visual impairment, and now he likes being away from all of that. So yeah, this was definitely a hard topic to broach because you can come from so many different angles. And I was saying I'm a mother and I'm going to come from a emotionally charged angle, and I don't know that that's the best place either. But what I really loved about our audience members, so impressed with them, is while we were talking and she brought that up, they really just rallied around her and gave their own experiences and offered words of encouragement. And I just thought that was really wonderful to do that because this really must be a difficult thing to go through. And she's going to have to face when everyone re-enters school next school year, she's going to have to bring, her child back, and knowing that he's going through that is really difficult. So I think it's something that we will continue to talk about with different guests, and of how to handle those things. We don't have all the answers for this. It's really hard when your children are away from you and out of your supervision, and you can't fight those battles for them. How do you equip them to fight those battles themselves? And why should they even have to fight the battles? But unfortunately, that's the way the world is. So, parents who are listening and you're raising children, teach your children not bullying is a serious thing, and again, this is where I come at the emotional, but you really have to teach your children to embrace people and their differences and understand differences, and not, use that as a way to isolate people. It's cruel, and it affects people for a lifetime. So we're hoping that Fitz can offer a little bit of his perspective to this, but he did have a few words that he shared. Do you recall what he was talking about when he told us about his experience?
Yes. So it was great to speak with Fitz when we had the conversation. And again, I wish he was on here to
Yeah,
tell us
I did too. Yeah.
He grew up with his visual impairment and said he had his ups and had his downs. He actually grew up in Jamaica, and he then went to a boarding school that was specifically for people who are blind or visually impaired. He wasn't matriculated into a regular school down there because that's just the way it was at that time down in Jamaica. But he said, his kind of words were try to focus on the positives, focus on making friends, focus on yourself, and find your talents. Like Fitz's talent is music and entertainment, and he found his way. And he just said words of encouragement. And he said, yeah, there's going to be those down times, and it's hard. And again, like,
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I have my nieces and nephews, and I remember being a kid, and he said, yeah, parents or teachers are not around, kids can be mean.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's
very true.
And it's just having confidence. I think that's what he brought up too.
He did, yeah.
In yourself, and that's what really helped Fitz himself. Hopefully we can get him on here.
I think everyone would really benefit from hearing from him. He's really an extraordinary person. I enjoyed meeting him and talking to him as well.
We would have him play one of his artists.
We really wanted to hear that too.
He's going to have an artist play music. I believe one of his artists that he produces for is named Ricky Ricardo.
Oh, yes, he did mention that.
Having a famous cousin.
Yes, I was very starstruck about his cousin. His cousin is Special Ed, which is, a 90s hip hop icon almost. So yeah, that was exciting to hear. We have another Eliza who works with us. She says she's cooking and baking. So what I'm thinking is that when we're all finally together, we're going to do a lot of eating, because I think everyone's going to want to show off all their recipes.
I think I'm doing a lot of eating right now.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Eating new stuff, we should say. So we had another question. My dad actually sent this question in. So thank you, Dad, for always watching and sending in your questions. He says, how effective is wearing a mask over facial hair? And honestly, when he asked this question, I just thought, it's fine. This is not a big deal, but I looked it up and I went to CDC, and yeah, there is a little concern over the effectiveness of wearing a mask over facial hair. And that's really, it's not to the point where they're telling, and they actually say that on CDC website, don't go and shave your beard off. But the just concern is that it's just like hair, they say that virus droplets can get into your hair and then they can sit in your hair. It's pretty much the same. It can also get into your beard, and the beard would seem to be more of the issue than just a mustache. So, and sometimes the mask doesn't cover the beard. So it's really just to use good hygiene is the most important thing. Wash your beard with normal soap and water, whatever it is. Please don't disinfect anything and put any chemicals on your face. Just normal soap and water. Just wash often, like you are with your hair, and with just have good hygiene, and just try to cover it when you go out. And then they also said treat it like a surface. If you do put your hands in your beard, then wash your hands. Don't just go around touching surfaces. So it just goes back to what you're always telling us, Dr. Walensky, is just don't touch your face. And I think that will help alleviate a lot of those problems.
Exactly. And don't touch your face, or even if you touch objects with your gloves on, remember, you're still having everything cross-contaminating on gloves. So that's still transmitting stuff. So if you touch your doorknob, with a gloved hand, clean that doorknob.
Yeah.
So that's really what to do. We have, and thank you for that. Thank your dad. I didn't even think of it because
I didn't either. I really didn't.
So let's see. Alicia Weber responded, said, because I said, oh, what are you specifically doing with the do-it-yourself stuff? And like I said, doing changing light bulbs, basic stuff, hanging shelves, refinishing old family table and some other furniture. That's great. I live in an apartment, so she has to be creative. That's great that you're able to do all, especially refinishing a family table in an apartment. That's got to be challenging. But
yeah, that's impressive.
It's great use of your time.
Absolutely. So I think that we thank everyone for sending in your responses, and we're again sorry that Fitz is not here today to share his experience, but we really hope in the future he will be. So again, for next week, come join us again next week. We'll have another guest. Hopefully they'll make it on the show with us. If not, you're stuck with me and Dr. Walensky. But come back every week. Please send in your questions. We also want to know, what topics do you want us to discuss? What's important to you to hear? Also, if you're interested, if you have a story to share or an experience and you want to come on, just let us know and we will contact you. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. And Dr. Walensky, you can leave us with your advice.
No, just any advice. Everyone, I'm happy we're able to all connect and discuss topics. And again, send us your questions. Let us know, like Dr. Grant was saying, what your interests are, what we want to bring up and discuss, anything. Hopefully next week we're talking about an interesting guest and interesting topics to bring up. And we're actually trying to plan even for the next 4 weeks. So we hope to see everybody again soon, and maybe even bring some people back. So everyone, please stay well, stay safe, and remember, wash your hands and don't touch your face.
Bye.